Some stories are never finished. They're just filed away. Welcome to Chronicles of the Obscure. Imagine living in a town where the mail is a weapon and an anonymous writer holds everyone hostage. That's exactly what happened in Circleville, Ohio, starting in 1976. It was a typical, quiet, blue-collar town where everyone knew everyone's business, or so they thought. Then the letters started arriving. They were handwritten, vicious, and always unsigned. They landed in mailboxes across town, but they all seemed to circle around one person, Mary Gillespie, a local school bus driver. The letters accused Mary of having an affair with the school superintendent. They described details so intimate, so specific, that it felt like the writer was watching her every move. At first, Mary tried to ignore them, hoping the twisted harassment would just stop. But it didn't. The letters kept coming, not just to her, but to her husband, her neighbors, and even her workplace. The writer was trying to destroy her reputation, piece by piece. For over a year, this was a campaign of psychological terror. Then, in August 1977, it escalated dramatically. Along Mary's bus route, a booby-trapped gun was found strapped to a signpost. It was a crude but deadly device, rigged to fire when a note attached to it was moved. This wasn't just about spreading rumors anymore. This was attempted murder, and it was only the beginning of an 18-year nightmare that would tear families apart, lead to a suspicious death, and leave a question that still haunts the town to this day. Who was the Circleville letter writer? To understand this mystery, you have to look at the evidence that piled up over nearly 2 decades. Let's open the evidence locker. First, the letters themselves. We're not talking about a dozen. We're talking about hundreds sent between 1976 and 1994. While they started by targeting Mary Gillespie, the writers soon expanded their scope. They sent letters to dozens of other townspeople, accusing them of everything from infidelity and corruption to embezzlement and other crimes. The handwriting was always the same. Distinctive, blocky, all caps printing. It was designed to be anonymous, yet it became the writer's terrifying signature. Next, the booby trap. This was the moment the threat became undeniably physical. A .25 caliber pistol was rigged to a sign. If someone had grabbed the note attached to it, the gun would have fired. Mary's husband, Ron Gillespie, discovered the trap and managed to disarm it safely. But the message was clear. The writer was willing to kill. The town was no longer just dealing with a poison pen author. They were hunting a potential murderer. The investigation dragged on for years, with suspicion falling on several people, but no arrests were made. The letters continued, mocking the police and tormenting the town. Then, in 1983, the story took its darkest turn. Mary's brother-in-law, also named Ron Gillespie, we'll call him Ron Jr. to avoid confusion, was found dead in his pickup truck on a remote road. He had been shot. The authorities ruled his death a suicide, but the timing was incredibly suspicious. Ron Jr. had been actively and obsessively investigating the letter writer on his own. His family, to this day, believes he was murdered because he got too close to the truth. Just weeks after Ron Jr.'s death, the police finally made an arrest. The suspect was Paul Freshour, Mary Gillespie's former brother-in-law. The case against him was built largely on circumstantial evidence and a handwriting analysis that a defense expert would later dispute. Still, the prosecution convinced a jury. Freshour was convicted not for the letters, but for the attempted murder connected to the booby trap. He was sentenced to 7 to 25 years in prison. The town thought the nightmare was finally over. But then came the biggest anomaly of all. While Paul Freshour was locked away in prison, the letters started again. They were sent from inside the prison, postmarked from Columbus, near where Freshour was incarcerated. He was even placed in solitary confinement, but the letters continued to appear in Circleville mailboxes. Was Freshour somehow smuggling them out? Did he have an accomplice on the outside? Or, the most chilling possibility of all, was the wrong man behind bars? This case is a labyrinth of theories, each one twisting the narrative in a new direction. Let's head to the theory board. Theory number 1 is the official story. Paul Freshour was the lone grudge holder. The prosecution argued he had a clear motive. There was bad blood between the Freshour and Gillespie families, allegedly stemming from a bitter dispute. The state's handwriting expert claimed his writing was a match to the letters. When he was arrested, the letters did stop for a brief period which seemed to confirm his guilt. As for the letters sent while he was in prison, the prosecution suggested he had an accomplice who continued his work. But who was it, and why? This theory leaves a lot of loose ends. That brings us to theory number 2. The wrong man was convicted, and the real writer is still free. Proponents of this theory point to the letters that continued while Freshour was in solitary confinement as definitive proof of his innocence. The writer demonstrated an incredible depth of knowledge about town gossip, secret affairs, and even details of the police investigation. This has led many to suspect the writer was someone with inside connections, perhaps someone in law enforcement, the postal service, or the school system itself. Someone who could operate with impunity, watching everything unfold from a position of trust. Theory number 3 is that there were multiple writers, and this was a town's shadow project. The sheer volume and duration of the letters, spanning nearly 2 decades, is a lot for one person to handle. It's possible that this started as one person's personal vendetta against Mary Gillespie, but the idea, the persona of the Circleville writer, became a twisted tool for the whole community. Perhaps copycats emerged, using the same block letter style to settle their own scores, air their own grievances, and hide behind the anonymity the original writer had created. The writer became a local legend, a phantom that anyone could become. Finally, theory number 4. This was a family feud gone nuclear. At its core, the primary targets were all connected to the extended Gillespie and Freshour families. This theory suggests the whole affair was an escalating war of words within a deeply dysfunctional family unit. Anonymity was their weapon of choice, allowing them to hurl accusations and inflict pain without consequence. What started as a family squabble may have spiraled completely out of control, pulling in friends, neighbors, and eventually the entire town, until the original conflict was buried under years of paranoia and tragedy. Paul Freshour was released on parole in 1994. He maintained his innocence until the day he died in 2012. The letters, which had terrorized Circleville for 18 years, finally stopped around the time of his release. Officially, the case is considered closed, but for the people of Circleville and for a generation of true crime investigators, it remains profoundly and frustratingly unresolved. In the Internet age, the story has found new life. Armchair detectives and documentarians have pored over the evidence, re-examining the handwriting samples, questioning the timeline, and dissecting the complex family dynamics. The Circleville letters have become a masterclass in the destructive power of anonymity. It's a chilling reminder of how a single poisoned pen can completely unravel the social fabric of a community, turning neighbor against neighbor, and how the obsessive search for a monster can sometimes create entirely new tragedies, like the conviction of a man who may have been innocent. The Circleville mystery is more than just a true crime case. It's a deep psychological puzzle about identity, revenge, and the darkness that can hide just beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect small town. It forces us to ask a difficult question. Can a mystery ever truly be solved if the questions and doubts outlive all the answers? With Paul Freshour gone, many key witnesses either silent or deceased, and the letters having long since ceased, the full truth may be forever buried in the Ohio soil. It's a story with no final chapter, just a lingering, unsettling silence. Who do you believe wrote the Circleville letters? Was it Paul Freshour, an unknown insider, or a collective town phantom? Let me know your theory in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to Chronicles of the Obscure for more stories that lie just beyond the light.